And welcome back to Applebee's Tailgate Talk on the Big 1080 WKC. Zach, Todd, and Tim with you, and we are pleased to be joined in studio by Athens' own Clint Lamb from Saturday Down South and Rivals.com. How you doing, Clint?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you doing today?
Doing good, buddy. I've been reading a lot of your stuff on Saturday Down South. I can't say that I'll look on the Mississippi State Rivals page as much as I would with Saturday Down South, but I read a lot of your stuff and see a lot of posts you do on Facebook, and you do a real good job about it. But we're going to start off a little bit first. So you're an Athens. We just mentioned you're Athens grad. You played for Coach Creasy?
I did, back in from 2005 to 2009.
So how was that playing for Coach?
Fantastic. So many life lessons learned playing for him, and we had the chance to win the 2006 state championship.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I forgot you was on that team.
Greg Greenhall, Coach Greenhall.
Absolutely. Jerry Davis.
It
goes on and on. Cody Gross was actually the offensive coordinator back then, with Rob being the quarterback at Ezel.
And the things he's doing now after Coach Creasy are great too. So for them to go from Coach Creasy to Coach to Cody, it's just Coach Gross. That's great for the kids. So
absolutely. I definitely think that he was the perfect fit for what Athens was looking for post Coach Creasy.
So let me ask you this: so how did you start working for Rivals and Saturday Down South? How did that come about?
It's pretty crazy. I'd played football, played a couple years at Birmingham Southern. Decided to hang the pads up. Took about a year off, just from the sport. I still followed it from a distance, but then I decided I wanted to get back into it. Started a blog. And did a few posts myself, and then there was a guy that had just started a website, and I asked if I could maybe produce some content for him since he was just getting it started and needed some free labor, I guess you'd say.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And from there, it just kind of took off. Roll Bama Roll with SB Nation reached out to me. I was able to get a gig there, and from there, it kept going.
That's awesome.
It's very cool. It was kind of crazy how it works. It's not really worked for me. Being able to cover Alabama and Auburn, I did grow up an Alabama fan, but at the same time, I decided a long time ago I'd rather be right than be biased. I feel like that doesn't do much for you, and so I can take a step back and look at Auburn objectively. And I was high on them last year. I was going to be very high on them this year before all those losses with Kerryon Johnson leaving early for the NFL, Cameron Petway. That was a huge surprise. I think he's actually coaching now. Got cut by the Vikings. And, I was really high on Auburn following last season. Some unexpected losses. And it's really, their run game, I'm really worried about it. That offensive line was already struggled last season. I think they gave up 36 sacks, which was just outside the top 100 as far as sacks given up. And then they lose their two best offensive linemen in Austin Golson and Braden Smith, who was a second-round pick to the Colts. So I do think that they have the pieces. It's just a matter of them coming together.
Put them together, And that's what was so us down. And I ain't, of course, I'm a huge Alabama fan, but just for them to beat Alabama and Georgia the way they did, struggling with some of the other teams, it was surprising to me.
But you hear about Auburn, and I guess it comes back to what Coach Steele's done with that defense.
Yeah, absolutely. And that defensive front seven is incredible.
Yeah,
they probably have them and Mississippi State both probably have the two best defensive lines in the SEC this upcoming season. Alabama's not far behind. If they can find an adequate replacement for Deron Payne at that zero technique in the base defense, which they're only in about 30% of the time, so it's not like it's something that's going to be played a lot, but it is very important. They've always been able to shut down opposing teams' run games and make offenses one-dimensional.
And number 99, I think, will be filling that spot just a little bit.
Yeah, they actually moved Quentin Williams, who played a lot of five technique last season. They're kicking him inside a nose tackle. He's still a little bit undersized. I think he's up to 290 pounds roughly. But he's looked fantastic from what I've heard. Fadarian Mathis is another guy who's really stepped up in his second year on campus. But, of course, it's not really going to matter too much. And when they're in that nickel package, you're going to have Bugs and like you said, Raekwon Davis, who are outstanding. Raekwon is one of those guys. I think he's a future top 10 pick. Size-wise, he does struggle with pad level a little bit from time to time, just being 6'7", but he's a phenomenal defensive lineman. The injury to Terrell Lewis, huge. he was by far my biggest breakout candidate for Alabama this season.
Oh, that to me, that's a huge loss because I was just thinking what all he could have done, you know. And like I said, it's not like Alabama, poor Alabama. They don't have nobody because they got just 4 or 5 stars. They can,
but still at the same time.
But that guy definitely was a big part.
And you keep on getting them hurt like we have been getting them hurt. At some point, you get down to the nitty-gritty.
And
I'm sorry, go ahead, Zach. Well, I was just going to ask, I'm sorry, real quick. You brought up Mississippi State a while ago, and a lot of people are high on Mississippi State, and that's going to be one of your new beats, right?
Yes, sir.
With Saturday Down South, is that correct? Or
Rivals.
Okay,
Yes,
Rivals. So, and I know you haven't quite got acclimated with everything on them, but just speak a little bit to all, what everybody's saying about them, and not to sleep on them because, and they did. I mean, they have a lot of talent at that place.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the two main things you're looking for when you're looking for a potential playoff contender, you got to have a quarterback first and foremost. And you got to have a dominant defensive line. You really have to be able to get after the opposing quarterbacks. And that's two things that Mississippi State has, but they also have a complementary run game. I mean, for Alabama fans, Aries Williams last year against Alabama looked phenomenal. By far the best complete game that I've seen him play. And then they have a guy by the name of Kylan Hill, who is played a little bit last year, and he's going to be, the comparisons to Saquon Barkley, he's not quite as explosive, but I think in Joe Moorhead's offense, he can put up similar production. He's an extremely talented guy, and just that duo mixed with Nick Fitzgerald being back, they have depth at the quarterback position. And
they're lying.
Absolutely. 4 or 5 returning starters. Now, Martinez Rankin was by far their best offensive lineman last season. Their left tackle, he's now gone, but just weapons for days. One area that they really struggled out last year is they didn't have a lot of size at receiver, guys that could go up and win 50-50 balls. And they were able to bring in the number 1 JUCO wide receiver in Stephen Guidry.
Yeah,
and he's absolutely
former LSU recruit. I remember when LSU recruited.
Yeah, that was a good get, no doubt.
So I think people are going to know his name before it's all said and done this season.
So how's Fitzgerald's injury? I mean, is he fully recovered?
I don't think he's quite there yet. He likes to say that if they play today, he'd be able to go. That's what you hear from most guys, but he is. I think he'll end up being ready for week 1. And that's the thing, is that injury was so unfortunate, very freak accident kind of thing. Yep. And you kind of wonder where he's made the most plays is with his legs. I think he's probably the most dynamic rushing quarterback in the SEC. I mean, he led the SEC in rushing yards as a quarterback, or maybe he was second behind Geis a couple of years ago, and puts up high teens as far as rushing touchdowns. And his main issue has been accuracy, and so maybe kind of making him a little more stationary. You've got to force him to improve in that area.
Exactly. I was just going to say that might have forced him to do that. But a lot of part of that too is when you have such a devastating injury, the mental aspect of it, and when you do tuck the ball to run, man, is this going to be it? Am I going to get hit? You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So and he'll overcome it. He will, but it takes a while, and maybe when he gets those first couple of really good licks on that leg, and it's okay, then he'll probably turn it up another notch.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And like I said, Clint also works Saturday down south, so he's. Are you mainly focused on the SEC West when you do that? Okay, and like I said, read a lot of your articles, but also I'm friends with you on Facebook, and I noticed the other night you were watching the Redskins game, and it was a pretty good. I'm sure Nick Saban didn't mind that too much, seeing all his old guys. I mean, it's amazing how many ex-Alabama. And I'm a Cowboys fan, so it hurts me to say this, Clint, but to see so many Alabama guys on that team, and you had supposed to know how dominant they were. So I know that's a good recruiting tool for Nick Saban to say, hey, did you watch the Redskins game of that and see 5 of my guys out there on the field?
Absolutely. And I think the biggest surprise for a lot of people, and if you really watch Daron Payne, especially in the college football playoff last season, he showed the ability as a pass rusher. That was by far his biggest knock, was people thought he was too one-dimensional. And he continued to show that great inside swim move on his sack. I want to say on the first drive of the game for that defense. And then Jonathan Allen playing next to him. He was showing some flashes last season. Ended up getting hurt and missing the rest of the year, but having him back at 100%. Ryan Anderson is going to provide a lot in the rotation for them. And then Sean Deion Hamilton, great seeing him back. He's looked phenomenal. He kind of missed a sack in the preseason game the other night that he should have made. Stumbled a little bit, but he's one of those guys that he's not going to be the biggest. He's not the fastest. He's not the most athletic. But between the years, he's, different level. And that really allows him to anticipate. He diagnoses plays extremely well. And his ability to read and react is definitely up there in the Reuben Foster level as well.
And that can make up for a lot of athletic, not deficiencies per se. He's obviously a great athlete, but it does. It makes up for that.
But I think I still say this to this day. Him getting hurt 2 years, he went 2 years in a row with devastating injuries, but he's one in his junior year. That cost Alabama from winning the national championship. Because I fully believe if he'd have been in that game against Clemson, Alabama would not have lost that game.
I mean, just his ability to be the field general of the defense.
Yeah, exactly.
You put that move, if I'm not mistaken, to Reuben Foster's responsibility, and that's just a terrible time to have to take over that kind of command. And he handled it pretty well. But I do agree. I do feel like that was a severely underrated loss. It seemed like his entire career at Alabama, he was probably the most underrated guy on the defense.
I agree.
And if you just watch how they played, I mean, Rashaan Evans was still making the transition from being a full-time edge rusher at that time, and to me, he was showing flashes, but he wasn't ready. He wasn't ready to be that full-time guy on the inside. So I do agree. It was a huge loss, and it's great to see him back after suffering last year's, dislocated kneecap, just a completely shattered knee. And then to see him back this soon and see him making plays is fantastic.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Absolutely.
And I don't know if you've kept up. I hadn't really kept up that much, but I hadn't seen how. Do you know how Kerryon Johnson's doing for the Detroit Lions?
He's fantastic.
They didn't have, and they've never really had a running game.
Absolutely. I mean, it's been I want to say the record right now sits at 63 games without a 100-yard rusher.
Yes.
And there have been people that have criticized, taking some off of Matthew Stafford's plate, but I think that's only going to help him. I mean, when you don't have a complimentary run game to really help you, you can tell in certain aspects of games they've been way too reliant on the passing game. And Kerryon Johnson. With his talent, I mean, he's very. I think he has the ability to be Le'Veon Bell-esque.
Wow.
He's a patient
runner.
Talk
right there.
Absolutely, and
but he does have that size,
and he's looked the part in camp, and that's probably the main thing I worry about with him is injuries. That's going to be the only thing that's going to hold him back. If anything. So hopefully he's able to stay healthy. But there's no doubt the talent's there.
Yeah.
And Stafford's happy to have him too, without a doubt.
Yeah. So when do you? Like I said, you're back in town right now. So when do you plan on heading back, and you'll pretty much be spending most of your time either in Starkville or on the road with the team, right?
Absolutely. I guess whenever they head out for that first game, I am going to be covering still Alabama and Auburn a little bit. I'm not going to go to every game for Mississippi State.
Okay.
So I definitely will be there's a few games on this schedule for Auburn that I definitely want to be able to check out. They have a brutal second half of their schedule. I mean, starting, once it hits October, you got to go to Mississippi State. You got at Ole Miss, high-powered offense. Then, of course, 3 of their last 4 games are Texas A&M, Georgia, and Alabama.
That's brutal.
Absolutely, and both Georgia and Alabama are on the road. And that's one thing that I'll say about Auburn. That as good as they were last year, they weren't nearly as effective. I think they were 3-4 on the road and 7-0 at home. And so they really need to show that they can be road warriors this year. Or they could end up. I could see them, potentially losing 3 or 4 games if they're not able to overcome that.
Yeah, if they're not, and it depends on how they come out of the gate.
Absolutely. I mean, Washington, week 1.
Oh yes.
And that's top 10 matchup, and I do think Auburn wins that game.
I do too.
And if they can get past Washington, I do think that they can start the year 5 or 6.
Right. But man, if they lose that game, the mentality of it and what they've got looking forward to, like you said, that second half of the season, why ain't getting your head and mess with you a little bit?
Absolutely. Well, and the other thing too is I'd written an article recently, and some people kind of called me out about it, but I understand that Gus Malzahn's job's not in jeopardy, but with Jimbo Fisher coming to the SEC West, Joe Moorhead, I really like his fit at Mississippi State.
I like what I've seen.
And everybody's loving him too.
Absolutely.
Boy.
Saban's not going anywhere anytime soon.
No.
Auburn can't even afford to sit still.
No.
They can't just worry about not regressing. They got to keep
they have to move
going
forward. Absolutely.
So I definitely think that they can't. They need to find a way to get past Washington, and they like I said, they need to figure out a way to be a lot more effective on the road.
Then you got poor old Coach O in LSU. Man. He's down to two scholarship quarterbacks.
Yeah, we'll see how this old Joe Burrow thing works itself out.
Yeah, they're relying a lot on that guy, I think.
It's amazing how Alabama can't seem to get a kicker. and LSU can't seem to get a quarterback.
No.
I mean, and obviously the quarterback's what you really got to have, but a program that stout, that good for such a long time, and have so many quarterback troubles, it just amazes me.
And what's incredible is just the talent that's been there at all the other positions.
Exactly.
They were a championship caliber team, but like I said, one of those main ingredients to be a playoff caliber team is to be able to have a dominant defensive line and a quarterback. So we'll see if they're able to get that done. I do think that Alabama's found themselves a kicker, though. I like Joseph Balovis a lot. I know that he's still battling Austin Jones, and then you got Will Reichard coming in next year. So I think that hopefully between one of those three guys, they can find themselves an adequate kicker.
I actually was down there at the scrimmage the other day, and I saw some good and bad things. That's all I'll say, because I'm not going to be Will Lowry and put everything out in public what I saw. But yeah, you do see some improvement, and I think one of the keys on that is Jeff Banks. They're having a fully dedicated special teams coach.
I think that's going to be crucial for them, and the coverage units too. I mean, look at Auburn. Auburn got rid of their special teams coach a couple of years ago, and they were ranked outside the top 100 on kickoff coverage and punt coverage. I mean, it made a world of difference.
Oh, yeah. You win or lose games on that.
Alabama fans should know. I mean, special teams is pretty important, especially, against Auburn.
Cost us a championship.
Yeah, so we could end up seeing some special moments for opposing teams if they don't get that fixed.
Yep. Oh, absolutely. Well, Clint, man, we sure have enjoyed our time with you today, and hopefully we'll get to talk to you a little bit more. When you have, I know you're going to be going here and there, but who knows? Maybe we can give you a call sometime when you got some free time, and we'll stay in touch with you.
Yeah, we'll definitely reach out to you, man. This has been great having you on, and thanks for sharing everything. And good luck on your new beat, and I know you're gonna see some great games. So
absolutely,
that's a tough job, right, Zach?
Yeah,
man.
Yeah, I'd hate to have to do that, but he's gonna have to tell old mom and dad. He said, "I'll see y'all." Probably after the first of the year.
You might see him Thanksgiving, I reckon.
It'll be probably Thanksgiving.
Well, Thanksgiving's an egg.
I was going to say that's the egg bowl. So,
well, Mama, I might see it Christmas time, depending on where Mississippi State's going to a boat game.
And I was making light of the fact. I know you get to enjoy it and all that, but it is work. I mean, the travel and the deadlines and all that stuff. So. Yeah, I'm not saying it's easy because I know it's not. But you make it look easy. You really do.
Well, I appreciate it. It's definitely worth it. It's a rewarding job. I will say that.
All right. So you can catch Clint on Saturday Down South, which I catch a lot of his articles all the time, and also Rivals.com covering Mississippi State. So, Clint, thank you, and look forward to talking to you again.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for having me on.
That's Clint Lamb from Saturday Down South and Rivals.com. We're going to take another break, and we'll be right back. You're listening to Applebee's Tailgate Talk on the Big 1080 WKC.